and Bowie Jane.
All right, welcome. It is Bowie Jane here, and we have the wonderful Jess Bowen in the studio here with me for Babes Behind the Beats.
Woo! Hey, Bowie.
Hello. It's a lovely day. It's a little smoky outside.
It is a little smoky outside. It's the heat wave and the fires. It's all caused this like smoky, apocalyptic looking.
Yeah, it's so smoky, and the sky is actually grey at the moment from smoke.
Yeah, it's wild. In Australia, they've been obviously crazier.
Yeah, I wasn't there for the most recent fires, obviously in December, January. Apparently the sky was bright red and just went black. So from the smoke, and apparently it was terrible. And even in Melbourne, which wasn't close to the fire, they were wearing masks back then before the pandemic.
Before this, yeah.
Just because of the smoke. When was the last time you were in Australia?
When I was there on tour, I was there in like 2012 and 2013 or 14. I went twice to be on tour there. I remember seeing kangaroos. We were on our bus, like driving to the next city, and you just see the kangaroos. I think that's so crazy that I can go there and you just see them everywhere on the roads.
Yeah,
and stuff.
Obviously they're not in the big cities. A bit of a running joke to Americans would be, oh yeah, they're just jumping down the street or whatever. But in all honesty, in the country towns, it does happen. And on the odd occasion at Melbourne Airport, there's been kangaroos jumping through the parking lots there.
Oh my God.
And then you see footage. Oh, that's good for the tourists.
They're so cute. It actually broke my heart because when I was there, I remember someone was saying something about you see kangaroos on the side of the road a lot because they end up actually getting hit by cars, which like is so devastating to me. And there's so many of them there. Sometimes I heard the Australian telling me, he was like, some people just don't think anything of it sometimes.
Yeah.
Because it happens so often. Like it is something that's so common.
And there's a huge population of kangaroos in Australia. So at dusk, I think it's like deer for you guys here. When the sun starts setting or the sun's rising, that's when they're moving about.
Yeah.
Not that I'm a kangaroo expert, but
yeah,
that's when you've got to be careful driving because they're more likely to jump across the road. So, but we're actually always taught as a kid, if we do hit one on the road, which may wipe your car out because they're big, yeah. But you are meant to check in their pouches to see if there's any babies in there.
Oh, you guys
and
are taught
rescue
that?
them, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I was
good.
taught that in primary school.
What about like koalas? Do you see them often there as well?
Koalas are a little harder to see because they're really high up in the trees.
Yeah.
That's why when you saw that footage of the koalas walking up to humans trying to get water, that is not normal. We do not see koalas doing that. That means they're really, really dehydrated.
That's eating.
Yeah, so it was awful. Which leads us into our amazing guest that we have on today, which is Rae Harvey. Now, Rae Harvey used to be in the music business and was like one of the best managers in Australia, female, which is a feat in itself in the industry. And she managed the Living End for, I think, at least 20 years and did an amazing job. They were so successful in Australia. You may not know them as well here, Jess, but yeah, they were huge.
They were in like the realm of Blink-182 and Green Day. Those big bands, amazing. I can see how they have a massive following, and obviously they're from Australia, so they're much bigger. They're more well-known there, I would say. There
are some songs that we all know all the words to, something you sing at the pub, that kind of thing. Yeah, so she had a bit of a life change after hitting an animal on the road herself. I think it was a possum. Yeah. And so then she wanted to go into wildlife rescue, and she has since set up a kangaroo sanctuary in New South Wales. But unfortunately with the fires, it all burnt down. And she nearly lost her own life herself. She just escaped on a boat. You would have seen the photo in the papers worldwide. And the sky was bright red, and there was a boat on the water, and they were escaping. That was her. She was on that boat.
Oh my God.
Yeah, amazing. So she made it out of there, and she's now rebuilding her kangaroo sanctuary in the same spot, which is amazing.
I'm so excited. This is definitely a podcast that we love to focus on the music, but I'm so excited to talk to her about this kangaroo sanctuary.
And also her moving from music into a different career is interesting. Like when you've been so successful, to have that life change
to make that adjustment and move into another passion of yours. That is interesting. I'm really excited to talk about how that all came about for her.
Let's get her on the line, and I can't wait to chat with her. Well, we are absolutely honoured today to talk to Rae Harvey, who has had an amazing career in the music industry, managing top Australian bands such as The Living End and 360, as well as running a touring company, bringing to Australia Blink-182 and NoFX. But she's just an all-round awesome chick because she's now helping kangaroos. And we welcome Rae Harvey.
Thank you,
Rae.
Hi, how you going?
So good. Thank thank you for doing this. We're so excited to have you. I can't wait to start talking about the kangaroos, but of course we'll start with the music stuff first since we're a music podcast.
Damn it.
I know. I'm like, I just want to get to the kangaroo part.
Absolutely.
But everyone else is listening. Sorry, guys, you have to wait too.
Yeah, I mean, you've had a fascinating background and you've been in the industry for so long, the music industry, before your recent sea change. So how did you get into the music industry? That's always interesting to me. When you were a kid, were you into music, or what was the sort of the journey for you?
It was an accident.
That's the best thing.
I wanted to put on a party for my 18th birthday, and that party became an event that was booked at a St Kilda Cricket Club where I had a life-size bass guitar birthday cake. I got 9 bands play for a slab. I hired my first PA. 400 people turned up.
Oh my God.
We're like, there's money in this.
No. It was never money motivated. There was a real lack of all ages shows at the time, and I just turned 18, and I really knew that because I was starved of live music myself. So my boyfriend and I at the time started something called Manic Ideas, which was just this little thing that we did a fanzine once a month that we had a mailing list of 5,000 people in the end. It cost me a fortune. And we used to promote all these all ages shows, and they'd sell out every 2 weeks at Corner Hotel in Richmond. And it was just something we did. And then I guess from there, I met promoters who saw that there was this girl in Melbourne who was able to get all these under 18 people to just turn up. And they started hiring me. And I think it was Fugazi was the first one I did. And I still remember the guy calling me going, "Oh, do you know of a band called Fugazi?" And I'm like, "Of course I do." And he's like, "Well, will you help me promote this show because they only do all ages shows?" And then he wanted me to do it free. And I said, "No, you can give me $1 a head."
Oh,
that's
nice.
where it started. And next thing you know, I was working for him, and he was touring the Beastie Boys and Foo Fighters and Rancid and Nirvana and Hole and Pavement and everybody else. And I got into band management around the same time and sort of juggled the two of them. The promoting of tours made a lot more money, but the management was more satisfying.
Interesting.
So you're telling me it really started from you basically getting 400 people came to your birthday party?
Correct.
You are so popular. Oh my God.
I promoted the show because I had 9 bands playing and they all played for a slab.
That's amazing. Wow.
Genius.
That's incredible. Especially, So you turned into like the local promoter in that area then for just, like you said, just that.
Melbourne, yeah.
Yeah, for Melbourne.
Yeah.
Wow.
You started your own touring company, didn't you? Or were you working with someone most of the time?
Both. I was working for somebody and then I started my own touring company. I think it was Lagwagon, SoCal punk rock band was the first band that we toured, followed by NoFX, I think. I can't remember the order now. I was working for this tour promoter, but then I wanted to bring out a whole bunch of more punk rock bands. So I started doing it on my own. I just took the risk and started doing it.
And did you know how to do it? Or like, how do you just start your own touring company? Or you kind of thought, I'll just have a go at this, like my party?
Pretty much. I just kind of winged it.
Just for our listeners who are not familiar with how that works to bring other bands out to play the shows that you were putting on, did you just reach out to their management? Were you reaching out to their booking agents?
Yeah, both. And sometimes just the bands directly as well. We didn't really have a lot going on there as far as internet and things go. A lot of the time it was bands direct because I was doing a lot of more underground bands at the time. Yeah. I was sick of it all, or Lagwagon, or gosh, who else did I can't even remember who I did. Even Blink-182 was just direct with their manager. And I actually met him when they were still called Blink. And
wow.
Rick DeVoe came out to Australia to help promote this new band he was managing called Blink, and we met. So I was obviously a promoter in Australia. We formed a very quick and early bond and friendship with those guys when I was first managing bands and things like that. It was all around 95, 96, something like that.
Wow, cool. And is there a financial sort of risk bringing a band out, or for people who don't really know how the system works?
There is. Yeah, there is. And it works differently in America. I think in America, local promoters buy shows and they guarantee the shows. In Australia, one person sort of guarantees it all.
Oh, God.
So it was all my risk.
Oh, that would have been stressful.
I was pretty good at promoting that. I was pretty good at getting the word out there, I guess. So the tours always did okay.
Once you build a name for yourself too, and I'm sure you were just the known promoter out there, and so your shows were probably just selling out left and right once you already kind of established.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right. Oh, that's amazing. Did you put on any festivals too?
No. That was a bit too big for my liking. When I worked for the company, they put on a festival, and I worked alongside the Big Day Out, and people like that. But I didn't do it myself. That was a little bit too adventurous for my liking.
Gotcha. So you were doing all the headlining tours, all all the bands that were coming in. Right. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so then you've moved into management at some point.
It was all around the same sort of time because, there was no money to be made. So you kind of just had your finger in every pie just trying to keep yourself going, really. At the time, management didn't make any money at all, but it was where the passion was because there was a lot more personal satisfaction with it. For example, Blink-182 come out and they go, oh, that was an amazing tour, Rae. Here's a gold record. Thanks for everything. That was fantastic. But then that's the last time you speak to them for 2 years. But when you manage a band, every single element of what they do is something you're involved with. And I just got a lot more personal satisfaction from that.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's amazing.
And how did you find the bands? Or were you like, I'm going to find the next big band? Or it was more sort of just coming, you're seeing bands?
Again, it wasn't about finding the next big band. It was all passion driven. So I was a big Green Day and Jawbreaker fan. They were my two favourite bands. I went and saw Green Day. I tried to get local record companies to release an album called Kaplunk. A lot of people would now know was the album before the album that broke Green Day.
Okay.
I was desperately trying to get this band called Green Day to come out, but in order to do so, I was going to find a local label to support them and, release Kaplunk and get behind the band. That obviously didn't happen because nobody believed in them. And then they broke on Dookie and a band called The Living End was supporting them. And I went to the show and I was disgusted by it. Who is this band who have come out of nowhere? No one's heard of them. How dare they support Green Day? I was appalled by it. And that was in 94. And then I saw them opening a festival at the Falls Festival in 96. And I was standing with my boyfriend at the time. And I remember standing up there and watching them live and everybody was booing them, the whole 200 people that was there at the festival.
You're joking.
No, and I just went, they're amazing. I want to manage that band.
Oh, my God. Why were they booing?
Oh, because they were weird and different.
Oh, wow.
They were different to everybody else, but that's what I loved about them. The irony is then I got back to my office because I just managed a little band called Body Jar at the time who we'd taken to Japan. And there was a message on my answering machine from the drummer of The Living End. He's like, oh, my name's Travis. I'm from a band called The Living End. We're looking for a manager. And I hear, you guys are pretty good because you helped Body Jar get Japan and we'd really like to talk to you. And so it was meant to be.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah, really interesting kind of way of it evolving. But there was never any looking for the next big thing. It was never about money, ever. It was all based on passion. And I think that's why, like when the Living End were breaking and I was working 36-hour days, I can still remember working until, 4 or 5 in the morning, going home, having a shower and breakfast, and then going straight back to work. And the shower and the breakfast is what signified my rest time. And I would work all the way through until 5 o'clock the next day. So I'd be doing I don't even know how many hours that is, 36 in a row or something like that.
Oh my God.
And I was doing that constantly. And that's passion. That's not money.
That's passion for sure.
Yeah.
Even if there was money in it, I think that's still just passion because I don't know if I would stay up that long ever.
I don't think I could physically do it now, but when I was in my 20s, I certainly could. I did a lot.
Like you said, you were staying up almost like 36 hours. I'm sure more than that. You probably don't even know how many hours you stayed up. But as a manager, what does that entail? Like, what were you working on? What was your job? What was your role?
Well, in the early days, when a band isn't making any money, at least in Australia, the manager has a much wider role, I think, than they do in America, where you have business managers and lawyers and things. Here, the manager is sort of the contact point for everything. And I was also promoting their shows and their tours. So as the promoter as well, I did their merchandise. I dealt with all the labels. And I remember there was a bidding war sort of happening but for the band at one point. And I think there was 9 labels involved that I had to deal with. And that involved talking to people all over the world at different times of the day. But, none of this, there was no money there at the time. The band were just starting to break. And when that's happening and they're going out and they're playing shows still for $3,000, but they're all over the place because the songs are just breaking on radio.
Right.
That's when it goes crazy and you don't have the money to pay people or get help, but the band is breaking, so you have to do the work.
Yeah, you were doing everything. The one-woman team for every aspect. You're this manager, the merch manager, the everything.
And negotiating a deal. So you got Living End signed then? Like you were involved in those negotiations, or was that?
Yes.
Wow, that's incredible. That's impressive.
So you didn't pay a lawyer to get involved? Did you take care of it?
Most of it, yeah. At the end, when there was a contract, there was a lawyer involved in the US. Initially, no. But there was lawyers involved to finalise the agreements, of course.
Right. You would have felt pretty damn excited getting them signed. That's a big deal, especially from Australia to get them signed to America is a big deal.
It is a big deal, yeah, especially at the time.
What label were they signed to in America?
Reprise.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, that's amazing.
Jess is a drummer, so
I'm a drummer. I mean, I love all the punk bands. You talking about like Green Day and stuff. I mean, I literally, when I first started playing drums, was in a cover band that did like Blink-182 and Green Day covers. And
weird. Okay.
So.
No, we were talking to Interscope. Oh, we were everybody. There were so many labels, so many.
Just to take it back to the fact that you were still also doing the concert promoting. So since then you were managing like the Living End. Would you put them on those shows to open?
Sometimes. When it was appropriate, yes.
When it was appropriate. Okay, so you wouldn't just put them on anything. You wouldn't just throw them on if it had to make sense. Yeah. No. Okay.
When the band started taking off, were you on tour with them?
I was also the tour manager, of course.
Wow. Oh my God, you were a tour manager as well?
We had to be at the beginning.
Wow.
So the first Warped Tour, I think they got $500 a show on the first Warped Tour they did in the US.
So Jess has done Warped Tour a few times.
Multiple years. I'm not sure. I did 2010, 2013, 14, 16, and 18. So I'm not sure if we would have crossed paths.
I don't know which years we did it. There would have been a 98 or a 99.
Yeah,
maybe around a 2003, 2006, something like those kind of eras. I also did tours with No Doubt and Blink-182, tours with The Offspring, tours with Green Day in the US. And I was on most of those. Some of them I was the manager, some of them I just dropped in, and some of them I was the tour manager and everything else as well. First tour, we shared a bus with a band called Strung Out because we couldn't afford our own bus.
I know Strung Out. I know that band. Yeah. God.
We were talking with one of our earlier guests, and she'd been on Warped Tour, and we were talking about the tour bus situation and how she couldn't afford air conditioning they couldn't afford to run it, so they were like in the desert with no air conditioning on these buses. Like
I had to share that bus with the Living End and Strung Out as a young female.
Let's talk about that. I actually like talking about stories like this because, I was the only female in my band with an all-male crew as well when I did Warped Tours. So how did you feel about being the only female? And like, what did you have any stories that...
I'm so used to being the only female. I've shared rooms with band members and I've shared beds with band members when I've had to. It's never been a sexual thing. It's never been an awkward thing. I've been one of the guys, really.
Yes. I totally understand that outlook. Yeah. Oh, okay. That's great.
Seeing underwear hanging up to dry, that bothered me sometimes.
Yeah. And okay. Did your bus smell at all?
Yes.
Did it? Okay.
And there was a blow-up doll. Come on, there was a blow-up doll.
Oh my God! Just what? Sitting in the front lounge, you just have a blow-up doll just there to greet.
Blow-up doll.
Oh my God!
That sounds Warped Tour and touring with a bunch of dudes on Warped Tour. That sounds like the epitome of it.
There was a blow-up doll. That's all I can say.
Wow. Yeah, we won't talk about this business.
No.
No, but I hear you can't do a poo on the bus. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just can't believe that. So you have to get off it.
You have to get off at the truck stops and deal with that stuff.
Deal with the truck stops.
I mean, it's probably a good thing, actually.
Yeah, and then it's a really good thing, especially when you consider how many boys you're generally sharing a bus with.
Oh, that's so true. I'm so happy you can't poop on a bus because if my touring experience was that, I'd be like, I never want to tour again with all dudes.
No.
Oh, yeah, in America they say poop. That's right.
Yeah,
sorry, poop.
I'm like poo, and you're like
poop, whatever.
Yeah.
It's
you don't want to hang a big shit.
Yeah, drop a log. So how long were you'd come over to America for what, 3 months or like for the whole year, or how did you just sort of manage it financially?
That was the most challenging part. I did go to LA for 3 months to be near the record company, but the band at the time weren't as committed to the US as I would have hoped.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why?
The label wanted them to relocate. Just, I guess, girlfriend issues or, outside.
So you're saying they wanted to stay in Australia instead of relocate to like LA?
Yeah, they just wanted to tour the US. They didn't want to relocate.
Yeah, that's madness.
Gotcha.
And I think that was probably the downfall of the band not breaking in the States, to be honest.
Yeah.
I was going to say, because it sounds like they had a lot of success and were on the right path for it.
They were on the right path, yeah. And they certainly had the opportunities with the Warped Tours and the No Doubt and the Offsprings and all of that. They had all the right opportunities.
They're all the biggest names in that genre. So like you
at
would
that
think.
time, yeah.
Wow. Do you think they ever wish they had have?
I've never asked them.
I'd be like, I'm over there. We're gone.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, so Rae, you also managed 360, an Australian, I don't know how to describe it, but Australian rap, I guess, rock rap. It's definitely a particular style. When did you take them on board and sort of what was the process with them?
I found a video on YouTube that one of my staff sent me, and it was called Killer by this rapper called 360. And what I liked about him is that he was covered in tats and he was punk rock rap to me. I'd never seen anything like it. And I just fell in love with this person I'd never met before. Didn't know anything about him. Didn't know anything. And I tracked him down. He just released that first single on his label EMI. It was kind of dropping down the charts and that was kind of the end of it. And I came on board quite quickly, like within days of meeting him. And we put out a new single, which was the one that broke him, called Boys Like You. And that went 4 times platinum and took him to that next level.
Wow. And how come that happened so fast?
I just think because his manager was lovely, his previous manager was lovely, but it was just all a bit too much for him. He didn't really know what he was doing. So he quite happily, he was a friend of 360's and he quite happily sort of handed it on to me. And
yeah,
then
right.
I got him, secured on all the right tours and everything because of obviously my touring connections been a real asset in my management. So I've been able to tour them properly.
Yeah, and then that breaks them essentially to new audiences every time. Yeah.
And what kind of tours were you putting him on?
Cooler ones like Groove in the Mood Festival, the regional festival that has all the tastemaker bands on it and things like that. Big Day Out.
Yeah, these are huge in Australia.
Yeah, Big Day Out's huge. Yeah.
So they're sort of really hipster or cool, Splendor in the Grass, really cool festivals that sort of got him to a new audience, I think.
Because I feel like 360 is the first band of that style, rapper, of that Aussie rapper, of that style. Like, I feel like he was first.
I think he was. Yeah, I think he was. I'd never seen anything like it before, and I just thought he was amazing because he was so unique.
Yeah, and if people should look him up, 360, but he's like rapping in an Australian accent, so it's really very different to what you're used to hearing.
It's very cool. You showed it to me, and I was, you saw me, I was like, I've never heard anything like this. This is like very cool, very unique.
Different to American rap. Very different.
Yeah.
Now we've got the Mac Millers and all of that kind of stuff. He was the first I'd ever seen that did anything like that.
Yeah, and how long did you manage him?
2.5 years or something, up until just after my first house burnt down in 2016.
Yeah, so hang on. Your house burnt down. Did you move from Melbourne? Because you were Melbourne mostly, right?
I was Melbourne-based, yeah.
Where did you move where your house burnt down?
I moved to a place called Cobargo, which has been in the news recently. I moved to a little town called Cobargo to set up a wildlife sanctuary with the hope that I would continue working with music, but also do this and set this up for my future. It was my lifelong dream.
Oh, that's amazing.
It was my lifelong dream to retire at 50 and look after animals. So I started working towards that goal. But on the third night, the house burnt down.
Oh, my God.
Yeah,
Third night. And I lost all my computers and hard drives and all my work. And
oh, my God, and you're still managing at the time?
Yeah, it really kind of knocked me for six because I almost felt I couldn't function without that stuff because we were so computer reliant and I'd lost the hard drives and everything. I didn't have anything in the cloud.
Oh,
God. It all went in the fire. That really did cause a lot of struggle for me. And it was just when the Living End were about to go to America and I was in the middle of working on their visa. And the second phone call I made after the fire was to the booking agent going, you have to do this. I can't finish it. I made sure that tour still happened and I made sure that visa still happened and I called a friend in America and got her to manage it for me because I was completely incapacitated.
Yeah, which is incredible because those visas are so much paperwork.
Yeah, I'd already done all the legwork. I just hadn't finalised it all. And that was my second phone call was to make sure that all continued ahead without my help because I was completely incapacitated.
Wow.
Oh, my God.
That's absolutely terrible. So you've made that move. Why did you originally make that move? It was obviously your lifelong dream.
I was that inner city girl who loved eating takeaway and all life's conveniences at your doorstep. I didn't even have a driver's license. I didn't need one. I lived city. And one day I decided with my ex-husband at the time to get a little bit of nature and we moved to the Dandenong Ranges in Victoria and I started volunteering at a wildlife sanctuary after I accidentally hit a possum.
Oh.
And hitting that possum and rescuing the joey that I found that day changed my entire life course.
Wow.
Originally I was going to return and look after cats.
Oh, yeah. So the joey was in the pouch. This happens a lot in Australia that when wildlife are hit by cars, you know better than me, but we're always taught as a kid that you should check the pouch to see if there's a baby in there.
Well, I got out of the car, I clipped the mother and I watched her run across the road and scale a fence, but I got out because I was worried that she was hurt and she'd run into a private house. I couldn't get to her. And then I heard this little noise and I went to investigate the noise and found she'd dropped the joey in the gutter. So I grabbed the joey. It was the middle of winter in the Dandenong Ranges. It was freezing cold and I ripped my jumper up and wrapped the possum up in it and called a wildlife group and said, what do I do?
Wow.
No, I actually was told it was my calling. I took it to a wildlife carer and he said, nobody else would have done what you did. You should volunteer. And then I contacted the rescue group, Wildlife Victoria, and they said, what you did was amazing. You should be a volunteer. So before you knew it, I was volunteering with the wildlife carer 1 day a week, and I raised funds for her as well. And I also did, I think, 100 rescues for Wildlife Victoria in my first year.
Wow.
That's amazing.
And we've got your cat in the background, do we?
Yes, I've just picked her up and put her on my lap so she's quiet.
Oh, this is cute.
That's good for the theme.
Coco.
G'day.
No.
No, it makes it all very legit.
Yeah.
I need to do that at some point.
So you moved to New South Wales, your house is burnt down. What on earth do you do then? I don't know what I would do. Like, where do you stay?
Well, we had emergency accommodation for 2 weeks. And I'd also agreed to purchase in 6 months when I sold up in Melbourne, I couldn't afford it, a second property here in the Mogo State Forest. And the idea was that we would rent this one out to holiday makers and retire at it after we'd done the sanctuary at Cobargo. But the fire changed all of that. Next thing you knew, I was up here, we were up here, and before we knew it, we were looking after kangaroos, and I was still paying the mortgage at the other place even though nobody was living on it because I wouldn't sell it because it was 800 acres in dairy country and I wanted to keep it safe for the wildlife forever.
Oh.
So before you knew it, I was paying 2 mortgages.
Oh, my God, which is impossible. You're still managing the band, but how without a computer? Impossible.
Yeah, I eventually picked it all up again, but it became pretty impossible because, you know, we had the animals that we were caring for and I didn't realise when I first started caring for kangaroos just how much time they need. It's 24/7 gig. I didn't realise that at the time.
Wow. At least you're used to 24/7 gigs.
I am, but doing 2 of them?
No.
Yeah, then you're really just...
Probably
No
the humans might be more demanding than the kangaroos.
Sometimes they were, but my passion, I guess, it changed because the kangaroos don't have conditions. They don't have egos and all of those other things that I don't really like. They love you unconditionally and you love them unconditionally, and it's a really beautiful relationship. And I really, really did find my calling.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, Rae, you've eventually at some point moved to Mogo State Forest and you're still paying the mortgage back where you were. When did you finish the music and then commit to the kangaroos full time?
March last year.
Oh, wow.
When I was fired.
Yeah. So what happened there? Was that...
The band felt I was too committed to the animals and I didn't have the same passion for them that I used to have for the animals, that I had for the animals.
I mean, that's not a bad thing.
Well, I guess it's hard to continue being as passionate about a band 22 years later.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you've got a new passion. And I can understand that because they could see and hear the passion in the animals. But at the same time, with all due respect, 22 years.
That's a long time to be with someone and then fire them because of...
passionate about something else. I didn't fight them on it. When they sort of approached me about it, it was true. So I'm not going to fight for it just for the money. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. So that was March last year. You've moved. Oh, you're already there, and then you're committing to it full time at that point. And so, was there a house on the property that you bought, or?
Yeah, no, it already had a house on it, which was great because obviously the house at the other property burned down, so we had nowhere else to live. One room was dedicated volunteers that would come and stay, and one room was a dedicated Joey room. And I co-founded a charity called Wild to Free and tried to find a way to sort of make it cover the costs. And the rest is history, I guess.
So, what happens if you set up, that kind of a shelter? I guess, do people look online and then they go, "Oh, I've got an injured kangaroo," and they bring it to you, or how does it?
No. So in New South Wales, to actually be a licensed carer, you have to belong to a group, and I belong to a group called Wildlife Rescue South Coast, and that's who licenses me to care for kangaroos. Wild to Free was set up as an animal sanctuary to rescue any kind of animal, because legally in Australia you can't just be about wildlife. So we also help some other animals along the way here and there, but to be legal. Wild to Free was established because the previous wildlife group I belonged to, Wires, don't start me on them.
Oh, yeah.
never support me with the kangaroos. It was all too expensive. It was all too difficult. And when I got told that if a joey has a broken leg, it will have to be euthanized.
What?
That's shocking.
That doesn't have to happen. And if you are prepared to spend the money all the time, the animal can be and is rehabilitatable. And I have got proof of that through several joeys raised here that had broken feet and dislocations and growth plates and things. So I left Wires and I joined Wildlife Rescue, who were a lot more caring about kangaroos, in my opinion, but they didn't have any money and couldn't support what we did. So, and that's why we founded Wild Free, because we wanted to find a way to pay for the really high expense involved in caring for kangaroos. And to do that, I started something called a sponsor program. And I think for around, at the time it was $20 a month, you could sponsor Jess.
Jess the kangaroo.
And Jess would write to you in her own words with her own personality and she'd tell you all about how she had a fight with Juno and she didn't like Ollie anymore because he stole her food, and it would all be in her personality. And then she'd send photos and she'd send them to her sponsors every month.
Oh,
and
yeah,
and I would write those stories.
I've seen that, and I've started to get familiar with the names of the kangaroos and their personalities. And you write fantastic things. Everyone should sponsor a kangaroo through Sponsor Free because it's so fun.
Yes,
and it's a good cause.
Yeah, we are absolutely going to put the link for this because it is the best cause, and everyone should sponsor one because.
Well, obviously, we're not really running the sponsor program at the moment, other than you can sponsor the mob, because until we rebuild, I can't care for joeys.
Hey, I love that.
Yeah. So at the moment, you can only sponsor the mob, but Koa will write to you and tell you what they've all been doing.
Yeah, Koa. I've been following Koa.
Yeah, but that's part of something I've really focused on, is trying to show their different personalities. Because of the commercial slaughter of kangaroos here and the way they're treated, it's really important to me to show people that they have such an emotional connection and they're so individual with their personality.
You can recognise them pretty much with their personalities, is that right?
Their personalities, and they all look different to me, of course, as well.
Yeah. And I will say, as being from the States, when I did go to do tours in Australia, it was heartbreaking to me as an animal lover hearing some people that would just say like, kangaroos are everywhere. Like, yeah, you see them dead on the side of the road all the time. Like they would not care about hitting a kangaroo or them seeing them dead. And I was just like, what? And I was like, I could not believe that, because in front of my eyes, I see this beautiful creature that, of course, I'm not used to seeing. And I don't understand how anyone.
The Farming Association have turned them into pests without researching how they actually add to the environment.
And so can you talk about some of their personalities? Like, do you get to just hang out with them all day? And like, do you just like...
Well, pre-fire, this is.
Pre-fire.
The joeys, yes, up until a certain age. And I do something called a soft release program. So I don't have them in fences like most people. I spend the time with them. And when they're little, I would take them in their pouches and we'd go and lie down in the dirt together like their mother would. And they'd sit in the pouch and learn to eat dirt and learn to eat snacks. And then one day they'll have the courage to get out of their pouch and they'll jump on their feet and then go, let me back in. And you've got to hold the pouch up and let them get back in because, oh my God, their feet have hit the ground and they are freaking out. And you've got to teach them like their mothers would to get that confidence bit by bit by bit until they're running around everywhere. And it's quite funny, especially when they hit that 2-kilo age where they're first discovering their long legs and learning how to hop. And you've got to just sit there and be very quiet and let them do that. They'll go on a quick little hop and then they'll run back to you really quickly. And then they'll start running in circles around you because they don't want to leave the safety of you.
Yeah. You're like their protector is what they feel, right?
You become their mother, yeah.
Yeah.
So hands-on.
Yeah, it's really hands-on, and take them for bushwalks so they can learn where all the good places are to eat and where all the magic dirt is and where the anthill is and where the best bark is. And then as they get older, you start to let them be a little bit more independent. And eventually, by the time they get to Koa's age, about 14 months now, they start to leave the mob who come back to the house at night. So right now, I have absolutely no kangaroos here, but by 6 o'clock, the place will be packed.
Really? Oh.
If you look on Rae's Instagram on Wild to Free, it's Wild to Free, right?
Yeah, Wild to Free with I think Instagram is TO and Facebook is just the number 2.
Yeah, you can see she posts the footage of them at night, like she puts the cameras on and she's like, oh, they look at them and they're having their party and
Oh, my heart is melting right now thinking about. I need to go watch that.
Yeah, and I just love showing all their different personalities.
Rae, so we all around the world know about how devastating the fires were in Australia over Christmas and over the New Year's period. Absolutely devastating. We saw the footage. You were right in the middle of it. Can you tell us about that? You've obviously lost your house. You've lost everything.
I think the 5 weeks leading up to the fire coming here was probably the hardest. The fire started 16 kilometres, 10 miles from me, 16 kilometres. And for 5 weeks we watched it burn north and west of us and away from us. And we had to live with threat of it every day and do as much preparation as we could. And I guess I became complacent at times because we'd get warnings it was coming and it didn't come. It kept going north or west. And we were south of where the fire started. And 5 weeks later, you kind of become complacent. I was crying myself to sleep at night because the fires had reached the water on the just north of us. That's when I started a fundraiser via Wild to Free to raise funds to get food out to the surviving wildlife. And that's the program I was working on for the 3 weeks before the fire came here. And
wow.
I think we'd raised $12,500 and we'd set up 60 volunteers and 150 feed stations, feed animals in fire-affected areas. And that's what I was working on before the fire came to us on New Year's Eve, unexpectedly.
Oh my gosh. So you're there helping others and then all of a sudden fire is really close. How do you, because you can't really tell, you're looking at maps.
The RFS did updates all the time and their updates, I'd been tracing the fire for weeks and I'd listen to the radio to find out where it was like that because it was affecting friends of mine as well. As you can imagine, two carer friends of mine were affected in the fire, so they didn't lose their properties, but the fire came through their place and that affected the animals. And the RFS prediction charts had been so accurate up until New Year's Eve that when they published the one for New Year's Eve, it said the fire was going to stay behind something called the Buckenborough River, which is a few kilometres from here, and that if anything was going to happen on New Year, it would just be ember attack when just the odd thing flies at your property and you've just got to quickly put something out so a fire doesn't start. That's what we were anticipating for New Year.
Wow. And it was quite the opposite.
4:00 in the morning, woke up Karen, a volunteer from Seattle who was with me. She was meant to actually go home, but she'd come back because she didn't want me to be alone because of the fire threat. So she extended her visa and decided to stay through the fire season with me. Yeah, I know. What an amazing woman she was.
I was going to say, what a woman.
Yeah. She stayed with me right up until late January, actually. And she was rescued on the boat with me.
Yeah, so at 4 a.m. you woke up.
Yeah, well, Karen woke me up because of the wind and the heat. It's really windy. There's something happening. Get up. And then as I was sort of waking up, Simon, another Wild Tree member and also an RFS volunteer who was next door, was banging on my door. And I still remember opening the door, him throwing me his wife's RFS uniform and saying, "Get ready!"
Oh my
God. That. And I'll never forget it.
Oh
we spent the next 2 hours trying to protect property and the fire went past and we thought we'd escaped it. It went into Moco and we thought that's it. It's past us. We had about a 15-20 minute reprieve and boom, Simon's place was on fire. That's directly behind us.
Oh my
God.
So it was a second fire breaking off from the first one, came through and down to the peninsula. And there's 4 properties down here and it destroyed all 4.
Wow. And so were the kangaroos at that point there or had they all run off?
At 4:00 in the morning when we first went out, there was 3. Sorry.
Sorry.
There were 3 kangaroos outside. Lily, who's still here today, her daughter Holly, and the third one, I don't know, a younger one that Lily was caring for. I was trying to coax them to come in and there was just wind everywhere and ash blowing everywhere and leaves blowing everywhere. And it was more wind than anything else. Wind and intense heat, like a tornado of heat. Is what it was. And all the other kangaroos had already fled to I don't even know where. And I tried to coax them in, but they were so frightened, they just bolted. So the kangaroos were all gone by about 4-something in the morning. And we were there protecting the property. In my mind, the house would survive because we're so well protected. And they were all going to run back to the house after the fire. And I needed to be there for them.
Because you're on water. You're on a lake.
River,
right?
That's right.
A very big river, yeah.
Well, at one point, Simon had said, if we have to, we'll go down to the river. But we were all still trying to protect. And I was out the back with the fire hose. We had a fire hose ready and connected, and the pump wasn't working. I couldn't get any water out of it.
Oh, my God.
So then we had to plug in the pressure washer that we used to clean the kangaroo poo, and that's all we had, and we were just using that, and it was just pointless. We just didn't have enough to protect. Well, what I took down to the river was just stuff to return to the house because I thought we were just going to shelter there as the fire went through, and then I'd go back to the house and treat the kangaroos as they returned. That was my plan, which is why I took nothing personal. I took nothing personal down to the river at all.
Wow. And so you're down at the river, and then is it Simon who came in the boat? Or?
Yep.
And so he's come past at that point. You're down at the river, and then he's
down
come
there for
past.
about half an hour, and we were trying to work out whether to take Coco and wade out to the water or shelter her behind the rock and cover her with a fire blanket. You've got to remember, at this point, I am positive the house is surviving, and we are just sheltering for an hour until the fire goes through. And then we're going to go back up the hill and wait for the animals to come and treat them. That was where my brain was at. Until I got down to the river, and then I started taking photos of things to document where we were in case we died. Once we realised how serious it was, and I didn't see the flames coming down the property, but Karen did. She said she saw them coming down both sides of the property, and as far as we can tell, the house was on fire 8 minutes after we left it.
Oh my God.
8 minutes.
Yeah, that
is insane.
It's so quick. Oh, so you had Coco with you.
Coco, me, the volunteer Karen and Simon all on a fishing boat.
And Coco's the kitty that you're hearing who makes some good comments in the background.
She's been rescued from 2 fires now. She's not grateful at all.
No. You better tell her what you saved her life.
The only thing I'm really lucky about is that because there was so much bushfire prep work to do, I only had a couple of joeys and they were at soft release. So when you go to our Facebook page or whatever and you see Koa, you've seen me bring him up and he's coming back at night for a bottle or whatever, but he's in the bush. That's where we were at as far as care is. So thank goodness I didn't have any small joeys in care.
Oh, my God.
Very difficult.
Yeah.
Very difficult. But they were on soft release and they were out in the bush with the others. And those joeys survived.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's amazing.
Good.
So Simon is your neighbour. He picks you up in the boat. That is a miracle in itself, isn't it?
Yes, because we'd already heard his boat was destroyed. In some of the commotion there, so we weren't expecting him to come at all.
So you're thinking, oh my gosh, well, no, you're thinking the house is going to survive, so that's fine. But then he comes past and he's like, hop on the boat now.
Yeah. Well, we knew we had to get on the boat because by that stage we could see our neighbour's place about to be destroyed.
Yeah, absolutely terrible.
We knew it was coming and we knew our place was going to be next.
Wow.
And Simon had already lost his place. My other neighbour, James, his place was on fire, so mine was the next to go, and we knew that. But by the time we got on the boat, but even then I didn't learn until the next day that the house had gone. I still thought it was survived in my brain, and the car and everything else. What do I know?
And I saw some footage of you out on the river, and it's just red in the middle of the day. The sky, it's
12 o'clock.
I think that photo made the news worldwide.
Yeah.
It's bright red, and it's him driving the boat, and it's just amazing photo. That must have been scary. Or were you sort of in survival mode at that point?
Yeah, survival mode. We were quite calm about everything because it's a different sort of feeling. You don't panic. You're not screaming. You're just being logical, and it's not a feeling I can really describe. You are quite calm.
How was Coco? Was Coco calm?
I may or may not have done something to help her with that.
Okay. Yes.
So Coco was calm.
Coco was calm about it.
Thank God.
You had other things you were worried about, so you're like, Coco, I've got you. Let's be calm.
Yeah. No, Coco is a highly anxious cat, so she's been prescribed Valium before.
Oh, right.
Okay.
Well,
we had a little taste of that before I put her on the boat because I'm not a stupid idiot.
Oh my gosh. Yes, you would have lost her for sure. So
Yeah,
That's how I kept her calm.
yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've gone back to the property. You've lost the house. You've lost everything.
Simon went actually more what really needs to be acknowledged here is Simon, after he got us to safety, Simon went back, rescued 2 neighbours, then came back again and stumbled around and discovered that my cabin on the property had survived. It was fire damaged, but it had survived. So he took shelter here and then he found the kangaroo food and he started putting out all the food and water for the animals here and in the Mogo State Forest 4 days until we got back.
What an amazing human.
All by foot or on my machine, which he ruined trying to drive it.
Yeah, God.
But he did that, and he was desperate for me to come back, but he said I wasn't allowed back because of the second warning of the second fire that was going to go through on the 4th of January, and it did. On the 4th of January, he had to jump in the river because the fire came through and destroyed everything that was there.
I didn't realise it came back.
It did come back on the 4th.
He had to jump into the river?
He jumped into the river. And he said, and everything, all the roads were closed and all the power was out anyway, and we just couldn't get back. And he said, you cannot come back until the 5th. It's too dangerous. I knew he was here, and by the time I came back, I already knew there was 20 survivors.
Wow, how?
Through Simon communicating with his wife, Yana, getting information through to me eventually.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. He kept them alive as far as I was concerned.
Yeah, what a legend.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll always be grateful.
then you've moved into the process of here, like helping the ones who had survived. And that's a bit of a process when you don't have a house anymore.
I didn't care. I think the hardest part was the sanitising side of it. There was no running water. I had filth heaped under my nails and I couldn't clean under my nails. I wore the same pair of socks for a week.
Yeah.
Because, a friend had donated some clothes, but nobody had donated me any socks. And, of course, I had to wear boots because of how dangerous it was on the property. There was still fire happening on this property right up until the 27th of January.
Oh, wow.
I was putting out fires with pots of water.
Oh, you went back to the property and just...
On January the 5th, and I didn't leave.
And you didn't leave. Okay. So then the kangaroos were coming back.
They were going back to the house site where it was destroyed because that was their sanctuary. That's where they always came back. That's what they knew. So we had to set up tents outside the destroyed house to provide shelter for them and food. And then Reach Out Worldwide from America came to help us on the 9th of January, and they built some shelters for us.
Oh, that's amazing.
How did they find you?
They went straight to Bateman's Bay and just asked around.
Wow, how cool is that?
That's amazing.
They were the first responders, the first people to arrive here, Reach Out Worldwide from America.
Good.
6 of them came here because somebody in Bateman's Bay had recommended us to them. And they said, what do you need here more than anything? And I said, shelter for the animals.
That's incredible.
And that's what they did. They built 5 big shelters that still help the animals today.
Oh, that's incredible. That's amazing.
Just bypass all the organisations. And
they did. They just went straight to Bateman's Bay and asked around.
Yeah, because I think we were all wondering when that was happening, like who we meant to... I remember I was writing, like, who we meant to donate to. I'm Australian and I couldn't work out which organisation I was meant to donate to. Who's covering everyone?
Well, that was the problem. Like, everybody donated to Wires, but unless you're a Wires member or a licensed shelter in other states, you don't get support from Wires. So I didn't get support from Wires. 70 million or however much they got, we didn't get a penny.
Ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous.
And I remember saying at the time, like, hang on, Wires is just, it's quite specific. Are we sure, like, we're doing a Facebook fundraiser. Is this right? Shouldn't there be other...
I've been helped by the Red Cross, and I will say right here and right now, so far I have received $50,000 from the Red Cross.
Well,
I put that money in towards building concrete water tanks for the kangaroos.
Wow.
Amazing.
At the house site. But Wires and RSPCA got 30 million just from one fundraiser. And when I learnt that, on the back of the bushfires, I learnt that and I rang them and asked them to donate some kangaroo food, and they gave me $432 worth of food. And I got nothing from Wires at all. Nothing from Wires.
Now that's so bad.
We need to raise awareness about this.
So you can donate direct to Wild to Free with this. Like, you've got a direct thing we can put up, don't you? Because I want people to be able to donate to you because you are doing all the hard work, as in your organisation, so that you can rebuild, you can look after the kangaroos that are...
You can't rebuild from that, but my insurance will rebuild. But
we're going to direct all of our followers to donate specifically, just directly to this fund because...
Yeah, because obviously Wires and that, they're not distributing the funds.
Yeah, and
it's very frustrating. I think, who was the comedian? Celeste. Yeah, she had the same problem.
52 million, I think, all locked up.
Yeah, she got it all going, and it all went to, unfortunately, it was specifically to New South Wales Fire, I think, from memory.
I guess so, but it does make me a little bit angry because I know that one of the videos that was taken here has been viewed 6.5 million times on YouTube, but no one knows who it is. And it's, you guys use my image to make money, to raise money.
Hey, that's not okay.
It's kind of not okay.
Yeah, that's shocking. What do you do going forward?
I'm rebuilding as soon as possible.
So if you follow Rae on Instagram and Facebook, you post heaps of videos, and I think you just put the water tanks in. Is that right?
Yeah, the house pretty much just integrated into the very, very large garage. So we had this huge hole. I'm like, how are we going to fill this hole? It's going to take 1,000 trucks of dirt.
Yeah.
So 2 concrete tanks it is.
And will that help future fires? So how do you deal with that? Like, what's your plan?
Well, the idea is, we've already put guttering on the machinery shed, which was burnt out but is still standing. So we've put guttering on that. So we can start collecting water as of the next time it rains.
Wow, that's great.
We've also put guttering up on all the kangaroo shelters that Reach Out Worldwide built. And, of course, there'll be guttering on every single thing I can find to collect water in every area.
Yeah, and you're on the river and you've got the water tanks and you're building an amazing space just to help look after the kangaroos. That's your main purpose now, which is amazing.
Only purpose.
We will definitely direct our listeners to the site. We'll put it in
we're going to put it,
Instagram, Facebook,
absolutely.
everywhere.
Rae, you're amazing. Seriously, like I love you. I think this is amazing what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, as an animal lover, I look up to you. I respect you so much. I think what you're doing is incredible, and like you're putting the animals in front of everything else in your life. And I think that's, people need to realize how important that is. That there are people that are doing that, and you need to be you need to get the credit that you deserve. And I hope that our listeners and our followers will, direct them to your site and stuff. We really hope that everyone gets that this is very important. So thank you so much for doing what you're doing,
guys.
And can you give us your Instagram, Facebook, all your handles?
Okay, well, it's wild, the word wild, the number 2, and free, FREE, on Facebook. And on Instagram, it's wild TO2 free. I just couldn't get wild to free. It belonged to some young girl in Canada or something.
And what about if people want to donate? Like, can they donate direct to your
on the website, wildtofree.org.au.
Okay, perfect. So everyone head there. If you've got $10, $1, anything
helps.
Thanks, guys.
We'll put the link. Anything helps, and it's going to an amazing cause. Obviously, you're a great person. Again, Rae, thank you for doing what you're doing. You're amazing.
Thanks for chatting to us.
Save the kangaroos. Pet owners, please check the products in your pet food. Stop buying a kangaroo. You don't know you're doing it, but you are. Stop the slaughter of our wildlife.
That's so important. Thank you for saying that.
Thank you.
Thank you for chatting with us. Thank you for just making us aware of what's going on. And thank you for giving up your music career to do something way more important, which is looking after the wildlife.
Way more important.
And we are going to come and visit you. Jess and I are going to volunteer with you.
We really will. I love all animals, and what you're doing is so inspiring to me.
You're going to be careful, because you might be like some of our other volunteers. Once they come here, that's it. It's all about kangaroos for the rest of their life.
To be honest with you, we're living in the States right now where it's a little bit not the best. So I wouldn't mind moving to Australia and helping the kangaroos with you, and just being there for the rest of my life. So we'll see.
We're doing it. All right. Thank you so much, Rae.
Thank you, guys.